J.C. Kumarappa. The Gandhian economies who influenced many across the country about the rural economy and how we can make a difference to sustain the livelihoods at the farmers level, the village level. It's one of the greatest thinker in this area. I am really honored for this, and I really thank the Tamil Nadu Farmers Friend for conferring this award to me. And this award is not just for me, it's for the lakhs of farmers who actually showed that transition is possible, who worked with us, who kept trust on us and then made a change in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. We started this work in 2004, so nearly about 18 years back, in few villages to work with farmers to support sustainable agriculture. So by sustainable agriculture we mean two folds. One, ecologically sustainable. So how do we sustain environment? So your soil, water and environment, how do we sustain? And other hand, how do we get better incomes for the farmers so that farmers' livelihoods can sustain? So these are the two focus we started with in 2004, and we started with about 10 villages working with small number of farmers in different districts of Andhra Pradesh. And then we gradually spread across the state, and we also believe it's not enough to work with farmers directly and show and establish models, but we also need to work with the government so that large scale change is possible. So that's where we started partnering with the state governments. So in Andhra Pradesh we could partner with the state government. Between 2005 to 2008 we could work with nearly about 30-35 lakh acres and then bring down the pesticide use in the state. And later on we started working in Maharashtra, Punjab and many other states, where we started looking, Sikkim for example, where we try to work with the farmers in transition towards organic agriculture. And later on we also try to organize farmers into cooperatives and link to the markets. So that's a framework which we were trying to work on. And when we were doing this, we also realized it's not just helping farmers to change which is sufficient. It's also public policy which need to change, because it's a policy is an ecosystem. For example, when India got independence 75 years back, India decided we had low food production, so we need to have a green revolution. But green revolution didn't happen overnight. It's not one just technology. ICR had a lot of research stations which tried to promote new technologies. Government of India established Food Corporation of India to procure, store and distribute. Government of India has come up with minimum support price policy. It has established a National Seed Corporation. It has established 61 agricultural research institutions and centers across the country. It nationalized banks. NABARD was established. So if you look at, there were number of policy changes which were brought in at that point of time. So it's an ecosystem which facilitated green revolution to happen. But unfortunately, over a period of time, when we have seen problems with this green revolution, we didn't make a change. We didn't adapt it to the change. So why this problem came in? If we understand that, the focus is only on two crops, focus rice and wheat, focus is only on two states, Punjab and Haryana, and rest of the country was left to its own decision. Say even today, after 75 years, nearly 60-70% of support from the government goes only for rice and wheat. Nearly 60-70% of procurement happens only from Punjab and Haryana. So rest of the country is completely left out. Over a period of time, whatever problems came in, whether it is about the fertilizers, whether it is about the pesticides, whether it is about the groundwater depletion, we have not acknowledged the problem. And when India has more than 60-70% of area under dryland agriculture was completely lost its focus. We focused only on irrigated agriculture. So everywhere we thought of building dams, supplying water. So water became a serious issue of conflict between states, between farmers, between villages, kind of thing. And now, after 75 years of independence, if we look back, where do we stand? It's more than 4 lakh farmers have committed suicide. There is a huge indebtedness across the country. So farm households are in loans, so they are unable to repay. On the top of that, the ecosystem has collapsed so much. We are at a situation where there is a compulsion for transition. We need to change. So from there, let's look at why this change, how this change can happen. So if we look at the major problems today agriculture faces, I would classify from a production point of view, leaving aside the prices, economy side, there are 4 major problems which we see today. One is the climate change. The climate is changing, and that's what we are seeing today. The rains are not coming regularly. So in a year, if there are 40 days of rainfall earlier, today you are getting rain in only 20 days. So between rains there is a long gap. Many of the rivers are getting dried. We have drought or we have flood. Yields are going down, and this climate change is caused by 2 important reasons. One, the way our lifestyles have changed, the energy use, the pollution we are causing. But agriculture is also very much responsible. So in agriculture, if you look at, it's basically the greenhouse gas emissions what we call. So the carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, all those gases which come into the environment, they cause this change. So in agriculture, if you look at, largely it comes from fertilizer use. So the high fertilizer we use, less than 15% is actually used by the plant. So if you are applying 100 kg, only 15 kg is taken by the plant. 85% goes into the water or into the air. And what goes into the water makes it pollute. That's one of the reasons you cannot drink water which is available in your village. You have to buy an RO or you get water from outside. So you cannot use that. And if you drink that water, there is a health problems which we are seeing. So hard water, all that comes from the nitrogen pollution. And the lakes are destroyed. You see a lot of green algae growing in the farm ponds. That is all because of the nitrate pollution. And nitrate which is going into the environment completely damages the environment. It is much more dangerous than the carbon dioxide. So for example, if you take paddy cultivation, rice, 1 acre of rice, the amount of pollution it causes is 3 times of a car, one single car. For 1 year, the kind of pollution it causes, 1 acre of paddy in 1 season is 3 times the pollution. So imagine, the more and more paddy we are growing, more than what we need, then there is a more and more pollution. But if government buys only paddy, all of us will only grow rice, because for other crops there is no procurement, there is no price support. So obviously we grow that. Second important issue about rice is also water. 1 acre of rice production takes 60 lakh liters of water. 60 lakh liters is 100 families 1 year water consumption. 1 kg of rice takes nearly about 5,000 liters of water. So imagine how much water we are pumping out. So if the local rainfall is 500 millimeters, and if you are growing rice, you are using 3 years rain in 1 season. 3 years rain we are using in 1 season. So obviously you have to pump out more of groundwater. So these kind of situations has caused the climate change. So that climate change impact is that your yields are affected, your crops are destroyed. So adaptation is something which is very, very important for climate change. Second important issue is the safety. Safety is about, safety is about when labor or farmer is working in the farm, how much they are affected by the practices they are doing. The chemical pesticides cause huge problem for the people who are working in the farms. These chemical pesticides kill lot of biodiversity in the villages. So if the insects die, the birds which eat them also will die. Similarly, the food residue, the residues which comes into your food also makes you unhealthy. So the safety is a very important concern when it comes to the agriculture. And more new technologies coming in, like say GM technology. Without testing, if they are trying to introduce in the states, there is a serious issue. And in 2002, exactly 20 years back, Government of India has introduced BT cotton. So 20 years later, there is no review done what has happened with the BT cotton, what happened to the cotton farmers, and what are the environmental issues, because the long-term problems can only be understood now. Without looking into BT cotton impacts, we got into BT brinjal, BT rice, BT bendi, several other crops, all are in pipeline. So when we are talking about this and when we talk about alternatives, people say, regularly we hear from the government and many people say yield will go down and you cannot feed the nation. That's the whole question which comes in. But let's look at what is actually happening with the chemical agriculture itself. In 1970, if I am using 1 kg of fertilizer, I used to get 13 kg of yield. For every 1 kg of fertilizer I am using, I used to get 13 kg of grain, rice or wheat. Today, if I am using 1 kg of fertilizer, I get only 2.4 kg. This is the Government of India's data. Which means, if I have to get the same 13 kg yield, I need to use 10 kg of fertilizer. So, what I used to produce with 1 kg, today I am using 13 kg. And all of you know that it is not sufficient to put 1 bag in the farm. I need to put more bags of urea. Right? Earlier I used to use only 1 bag. Today I am using 10 bags, 5 bags kind of thing. And why this is happening? Why this is happening? This is happening because any crop requires many nutrients and you are only applying urea. Rest of the nutrients actually comes from the soil. So unless your soil is healthy and unless your soil has the organic matter, applying only fertilizer, that too nitrogenous fertilizer, will not help. So your soil is losing its strength. So when the soil loses strength, we are trying to feed it with the fertilizer. It's like an artificially we are keeping it on saline. And we are trying to put as much as fertilizer possible and see that it comes in. This is what we are trying to do. But what we are not understanding is what is its impact on a larger scale. I already told you about the pollution. Let's look at the economic impact. Let's look at the economic impact. At the farmer's level, minimum 10 to 20,000 rupees is spent on fertilizers. One farmer spends nearly 10 to 20,000 on fertilizers. If you look at one village which has about say 1,000 acres, what is the fertilizer used? How much is spent? 1 crore rupees. One village spends 1 crore rupees on a fertilizer per season. And how much the entire village income is? Hardly 50,000, 50 lakhs or less than that. If you look at all the support which village gets from various sources, it is much lesser than that. All government schemes and all is much lesser than that. And at the national level, if we look at the fertilizer subsidy, leave aside what farmer is spending. The spending by the Government of India is 2.5 lakh crores per year on the chemical fertilizer. 2.5 lakh crores. And the estimation is that by end of this year, it is going to be about 4 to 5 lakh crores because 70% price increase is going to happen. So in the total budget, nearly 1/5 of the budget is spent on chemical fertilizers. So you are not left with any money for any other thing because 70% goes for the salaries. And in the rest of the budget, defense and fertilizers, if you take, there is no money for anything else. So where do you invest on actually supporting farmers, on pricing, on infrastructure, on knowledge generation, on health, education? Where do you get money? So all that government is trying to withdraw and then privatize there. So inefficient investments from the government side is one of the serious problems. Second important issue also we need to look at. If your soil is getting destroyed, if soil is becoming saline, if your groundwater is going down, how are you going to sustain farming? Always we are worried about 10% yield reduction if you stop using fertilizer. But how much land India needs or Tamil Nadu needs, say by 2050, from today 30 years later, what is the Tamil Nadu population, and then how much food you need to produce? Where do you get it? Where is the land? The land is going into real estate. Land is becoming saline. Land is getting drowned. So land degradation has increased significantly. Land is going out of cultivation. So why are we not worried about that? So long-term sustainability we need to look at. So it is not only about today's food production, it is also tomorrow's food production, day after food production. 50 years down the lane, how do we do it? Today the entire fertilizers largely comes from two sources. India produces its own, it uses all the energy. So the coal reserves, so Naiveli is there is a fertilizer factory next to it, Ramagondam is there, next to it there is a fertilizer factory. Or we import naphtha, gas and then produce the fertilizers. Or we import fertilizers itself. What happened when the Ukraine war happened? Fertilizer price went up, right? Because you are not importing fertilizer, but you are importing the natural gas. So now the price went up. Imagine tomorrow the natural gas is over. How long we are going to use natural gas or fertilizers or the pesticides or the coal? Another 25 to 30 years or 40 years? After that we don't have these chemical sources. We don't have phosphorus sources, we don't have potassic sources. So you can't even make a fertilizer after say 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So it is going to increase the prices. So what is the long-term solution for this? What is the sustainability of land, water and agriculture? This is something we need to worry about. So if you are not going to change now, what happens is you need more energy. Coal is over, then you need nuclear. You clear your forest. So this whole new demand for water, new demand for energy is as if we have unlimited resources. There is no unlimited resources available. Land is limited, water is limited, energy is limited. That's what we need to figure out. Within that, how do we find solutions? So what we try to do is, we try to look at across the country where the solutions lie. The number of farmers who actually did lot of alternatives, very good work. Nammalwarji, Bhaskar Save, number of farmers across the country. So what we try to do is pick up best practices, work with the farmers, at the village level create an ecosystem where farmers learn, experiment and change at their own convenience. Don't impose on them. Say, if you want to reduce pesticide use, reduce pesticide use. If you want to reduce fertilizer use, reduce fertilizer use. First get convinced about the change. Once farmers get convinced, then the change is quite possible. Between 2004 and 2008, like I mentioned, pesticide use has gone down by 50% at the state level. That happened because farmers stopped using pesticides and they didn't use any big alternate technology. It is simple neem solutions or tobacco decoction, those kind of things. But what we taught farmers is how to identify the insect, how to manage the insect. So for example, all of us have mosquito problem. How do you manage your mosquito? One, you use an all-out in your home, which is a highly poisonous chemical. So in this room, if you want to kill, say 10 mosquitoes are there, if you want to kill the mosquitoes, entire room should get poisoned. All of us will get poisoned. Instead, if you just close the doors, we don't allow insects to come inside, we are safe. So you can use a net. So alternatives are much easier. And if there is no stagnant water, mosquitoes won't multiply. So like that, for every insect we could identify and then work with that. Similarly on the land, soil management. So we did a lot of extensive work across the country, identified the best practices, tried to train the farmers. So we use the farmers as the resource persons and train other farmers. So replication became much easier across the states of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and Sikkim and many other states, and now governments are also adopting the same practice. And whenever we talk about this, quick question comes up, what happened to the productivity? What happened to the cost? Did your cost increase? Did your productivity gone down? Can we meet the nation's food security? Let me answer these three questions. Productivity. Our 30,000 farmers data shows that over nearly about 6 years data, yield variation is not more than 5%. Yield variation is not more than 5%. Means, say if I am getting 100 kg, either I get 95, between 95 to 105. There is no major reduction. But my cost went down by 20%. All cost include my cost went down by 20%. My productivity increased by 10%. So overall, if you look at, there is a benefit for the farmer, and there is no health hazards. So the cost on health went down significantly. Last year, Government of Andhra Pradesh has done data analysis for 9 lakh farmers. 9 lakh farmers. 9 lakh farmers data shows that yield has not reduced even by 5%. That shows that more farmers do it, more sustainability comes in. The say in the village all farmers adopt, then the pest problem goes down. So that's a transition which is quite possible. So if that kind of agriculture is supported, then major transition is possible. So whenever we talk about this one, people talk about Sri Lanka. Why Sri Lanka went into a problem? So if you look at actually Sri Lanka's situation, over a period of time, exactly like in India, the yields were going down. For every kg of fertilizer used, the yield was going down. And more fertilizers they have to use. And more fertilizer means you need to import, you need a lot of foreign exchange. And Sri Lanka also invested on various other developmental programs by borrowing money from the International Monetary Fund, China, and then World Bank and several others. So it has to repay. 70% or 80% of their resources annual budget is going for repayment. So you don't have money to invest and you don't have money to pay for fertilizer. So that's where they decided to actually make a transition. But it was in a very later stage when already yields are gone down. You don't have even fertilizers. So you already have a fever and you don't have a medicine. So what you need to do is, initial stages itself, we need to identify how do we make the change. That didn't happen in Sri Lanka. And mind you, Tamil Nadu is not far away. So your loan, how much debt state has? Nearly 6 lakh crores? 7 lakh crores. Imagine if a state like Tamil Nadu has a 7 lakh crores, what is your interest rate per year? How much budgetary allocation has to be made to repay that? So soon you are also going to face the same problem. Punjab is 55 lakhs. Our Andhra Pradesh is 45 lakhs. So we are all getting into the same boat. At least initially we need to identify our problem and then make a transition. See, if you are using natural resources, it is your own resources, you are not paying for that. If you are getting from outside, you need to pay. So that's where actually transition is very, very critical. Coming to the profitability. See, if your cost comes down, or if your cost, so now if you look at profitability, so whether the farmers can get good income if they make a transition, this is what everybody asks. So what is the income farmers today are getting if you look at the last 75 years? After 75 years, today the average income of the farmer per month is around 8,600 rupees. And this is the average of all farmers who has a big land, small land and all together. And if you take only small and marginal farmers who farms about 83% of the farmers. All farmers, if there are about 83% of the farmers are small farmers. Their income is less than 6,000 rupees per month. 6,000 rupees per month, if you take annual income, what is the total income they are getting? What is the income they are getting? So if they look at the cost wise, how much they are investing and then how much money they are getting, every year you only see a gap which is a negative gap, which is not a positive gap. So I am spending more to get less income. That's what is happening. And even the minimum wage, so today minimum wage is what? 700 rupees, 554 rupees is the minimum wage in the country for a skilled labor. Even 554 rupees per day is not working out for a farmer. So many farmers feel it is better to go for a labor work than actually doing farming. And the labor shortage which we talk about is mainly because agriculture is not very viable and we are not able to pay 500 rupees to the labor. So farmer is unable to afford labor. Second issue also happened over a period of time is the drudgery. See, why after 75 years of independence, still we have not invented tools to make life simple. No, harvesting simple. Why should we use the same sickle? The sickle which invented in Indus Valley civilization we are using today. What happened to the 60 research institutions in this country? What did they invent? Why women should bend and sew even today? Why? After 60 years, you know, in 1 acre if transplanting has to be done or a seed has to be sown, they have to walk 16 kilometers. In 1 acre, they are walking like this, have to walk in a bend position 16 kilometers. Imagine any one of us actually walking like that. Why are we not inventing tools for that? Instead, what we are doing is, we are not inventing tools to help women to do better job. We invent a big machine, we actually bring it from Western countries, replace women. So you are actually replacing labor rather than actually empowering labor to do a better work. Any one of us needs tools. Say, I need a mobile phone, I need a microphone, it should help me, it should not replace me. See, there is an online session, Yogendra ji spoke to us. So it enabled long distance communication. See, technology should not replace Yogendra Yadav ji, right? It should enable that he can talk to you or I can talk to you. So technology should enable people to do better. Unfortunately, we are not doing that. So that's where actually we need to go back to the discussion we started with about the Gandhian economy. We need relevant technologies. We need an ecosystem where people can work together. We need a circular economy. I buy from Nataraji, Nataraji buys from Venkatraman. So we all may be spending the same money, but all of us gets a benefit out of it. Today what we are doing, all of us are actually spending money and paying to somebody else outside. So that has to change. So towards that, what we try to do is organize farmers into cooperatives, help rural youth to produce inputs, help farmers to make their own inputs, or an entrepreneur to produce for them, so that money remains in the village. So if 1 crore rupees which is spent on inputs remain in the village, there is an additional income village gets. In addition to the price which they get for their product, they will get this income. Productivity is a myth actually at the national level. Today we are producing 300 million tons of grain, 300 million tons of fresh fruits and vegetables. If entire India eats 3 times a day, we need only about 90 million tons. What is happening to the rest of the thing? It is all getting rotted in the warehouses. Even if our yield goes down by 3 times, our production goes down by 3 times, nothing is going to happen. We have that much yield which we are able to produce. 300 million tons of fresh fruits and vegetables, we eat only about 120 million tons. Rest of it is actually rotting because you don't have infrastructure facilities. So what we need to do is bring efficient infrastructure, bring efficient storage, invest there. And then diversify. Why only rice and wheat? Diversify, produce more, produce millets, produce pulses, produce oil seeds. Why are we importing pulses and oil seeds and trying to export what? Rice, which is completely a bad situation, because every rice you are exporting, every kg of rice you are exporting 5,000 liters of water. And there is a cost behind that. It's not just water. If Tanjavur exports rice, where are you getting water? You had a long fight with Karnataka and got that water, and now you are actually exporting it to some other country. So you are also not getting a benefit out of it. So why are we not utilizing it efficiently? Instead of 1 acre of rice, why can't we grow 10 acres of pulses? So instead of importing pulses from outside, why not we support pulses? And pulses doesn't need fertilizer, so I am not buying fertilizer. So instead of subsidizing fertilizer, why can't we subsidize pulses? You can easily increase the pulse price by 2,000 rupees per quintal, because you are not using that fertilizer, so you are not buying urea. So instead of that one, directly support them. So the support system should change. So in the policy level, the support system should change. So the one hand, we need to get farmers together, organize themselves, so that they can do a better planning. So why government of Tamil Nadu or government of India should plan what crop should be grown? Let the farmers decide. what is good for them, what is suitable for them. Based on that, let them make a plan. Let the state decide what to procure. Why center should decide what to procure, where to procure and distribute? Let the state decide. Say your entire Tamil Nadu requires so much of rice, so much of millets. So this year you may not distribute rice, you may actually distribute millet. Today that is not happening. And what to procure also can be a decision by the state. Because this year if the rice prices are good, say wheat prices are good this year, and government started saying farmer should sell to government only. Why? If farmer is able to sell outside, get a better price, allow that, and then buy something else from farmer. Farmer is unable to send, say, tomato. Buy that and distribute to places where it is required. So it should not be a fixed policy of procurement and distribution. That should change. So farmers cooperatives, FPOs, they can really do well. But what is required is, today we are not teaching people how to manage. So expecting that farmers will manage on their own also will not happen. So you need to invest on that. You need to train people. So women self-help groups today are able to do it because government invested over 10 years period. Built them, helped them, save, sell, all that. So similar exercise has to be done with the farmers cooperatives. Today there are a number of initiatives across the country about farmer cooperatives, and if that can happen, they can actually become a good platform on which actually agriculture can make a transition. So organic and natural farming is one side. Second is about organizing farmers into cooperatives. Tamil Nadu has a long history. India has a long history of Amul. So Amul also didn't happen overnight. Amul happened because NDDB was established, IRMA was established, right? Government invested on technology, government invested in supporting. Farmers only produced and supplied. So same thing can happen with food crops, vegetable crops and all those things. Farmers can produce and supply, but a good planning is required, good support is required, good institution is required. Thank you. So our farmers, we work with 60 cooperatives and they sell directly to the consumers. And we could see in every 100 rupees consumer pays, farmer gets nearly 50 to 60 rupees. In the regular market, farmer gets 20 rupees. So if you are buying a vegetable at 100 rupees, farmer get only 20 rupees out of it. Rest of it goes to the several middlemen in between and the losses. But if the farmer can do it themselves, if the farmer can come together and then sell, they get additional price not only for the vegetable but also for the work they do across the supply chain. So that's the additional income. And also A grade may be sold to the buyer, consumer. B grade, C grade, we do a value addition. So instead of say very good tomatoes, good mangoes, we'll go to the market directly, we sell. B grade, C grade, we pulp it and make a pickle or dry it and then make another product out of it. So nothing is thrown out. So you get additional income out of it, additional work, additional income. So cooperatives will be certainly be a way we need to look at in terms of taking forward. But here, there is a catch. All this can only happen if there is a policy support. So let's look at actually what are the various innovations happened on policy in the country. See, India is not one nation. We are a group of people with various socio-economic conditions, various ecological conditions. So we need multiple policies, multiple innovations need to happen. So if we look at actually the major policy changes which has happened in the last 4 or 5 years, some good policies which has impacted, if we look at one major policy change which has happened in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Odisha, Chhattisgarh and West Bengal, 5 states, is the direct income support. Direct income support. They call it as a direct income support. So the way it operates is, in Telangana, per every acre, they give 10,000 rupees per year. So one season 5,000 rupees, second season 5,000 rupees. So 10,000 rupees is given to every acre. And they call it as an input support. You can buy anything you want and then do your farming. So that's what Telangana has done. Andhra Pradesh, they said it is not per acre, it is per household. Because poor households is what needs to get support. So they said 15,000 rupees per every household. And they said tenant farmers also will get. Telangana has not given for tenant farmers. They are given only for the landowners. So Andhra Pradesh said tenant farmers also will get. And center gives 6,000 rupees. Rest of the money is added by the state. So they give 15,000 rupees per year for every household. Odisha tried a different model. Odisha gave 10,000 rupees for every farmer, and they also they identified people who doesn't have land. So what do you do with them? To say, I'll give you 10 lakh rupees over a period of 5 years, and I will help you to establish your livelihood. So if somebody doesn't have land, they need some support to establish a livelihood. So I may buy cow, I may buy a buffalo, I may do a goats, or I may do a compost, or I may do something else. So to do that, I'll support up to 10 lakh rupees over 5 years. 5 years. So every year I give you some money, so that in 5 years you get 10 lakh rupees. And then every family will get 10 lakh rupees if you don't have a land. So if you have a land and if you are doing agriculture, you will get 10,000 rupees per year. So which means about 50,000 rupees. But if you don't have land and you need support, so over a period of 5 years I will invest in you. So this is it's called Kalia in Odisha. West Bengal called it as Karshak Bandhu. This is a scheme called Karshak Bandhu, where every farmer will get 10,000 rupees. Again, West Bengal. Chhattisgarh looked at a different model. They said it is not land wise, it is not household wise, it will be a crop wise. So if you do sugar cane, you will get 13,000 rupees. If you are doing paddy, you will get 10,000 rupees. And in addition, they also fixed prices. So rice, paddy prices they fixed at 2,500. So 700 rupees per every quintal they added from their side, from the state. So whatever the state, the center price, state will add 700 rupees. So 2,500 rupees is what Chhattisgarh pays. Then center said, you are actually distorting. You are distorting because nobody can buy in Chhattisgarh. So private companies cannot buy in Chhattisgarh. Then they said, we won't buy from you. So if you procure from government, if you procure from farmers, center said, I don't buy from you. I will stop buying from you. They said, you buy at whatever your MSP is. Rest is borne by us. Then they started supporting at the production level. So I won't distort the price, but I'll pay directly to the farmer every acre. So that's the kind of new innovations happening on the price front. And in addition to the prices, there is also new innovations happened on the insurance, which is again which is very much required, and then we need to look at. Say Andhra Pradesh government insured the entire state. They said, I have 1.5 crore acres, entire 1.5 crore acres is insured. So individual farmers need not pay insurance. Entire land is insured. And then that entire land, every acre data is taken by the government officer. So it is not the responsibility of the farmer also. So if there is a crop failure, you will get a check. If there is a crop failure, you will get a check. Telangana tried a new insurance model. They didn't try on the crop insurance. They tried a life insurance. They said all farmers are insured. The insurance payment is done by the government, 5 lakh rupees for every farmer. If death happens for any reason, there is a flood, there is an accident, a person has become old and died, or he has committed a suicide, still they will get the money. So all deaths, everything is covered. So that's a great innovation. So similarly, I would say, center started PM Kisan. Odisha, in addition to this, they started millet mission, where millets farmers are given additional money of 4,000 rupees. So there could be various ways of supporting agriculture. So that's where we need to look at when we talk about Farmers Income Commission. So Farmers Income Commission is not a single intervention. It should be a multiple intervention. What are those interventions? Intervention is about what is your cost of production, what is your price you are getting, what is your support you are getting from the government. Fourth is what is your cost of living. So how do you balance these four? Today, balancing these four is the responsibility of the individual. Let that be the responsibility of the state. State make a calculation and say, this year, this area farmers didn't get good crop, so they need more money. This year, there is a good market for this crop, this farmers doesn't need support, but somebody else will get support. So balancing this becomes much easier. Otherwise, entire support goes only for few states, entire support goes only for few crops, and rest of the farmers will always be waiting. And we'll all fight saying, I need this, but somebody will grab that. So you don't actually get benefit. So that's a transition which is actually required. So we need to look at state level Farmers Income Commission which looks at all these things and identify the farmer. See, state should have a database of farmers who are actually cultivating. Then pay them directly. And also, like the Telangana did or Andhra did, don't make it only 10,000. Link it to the inflation, right? Whenever you are increasing the salary of an employee, add the same inflation to the this farmers income support also. Or you increase an MSP. If you increase fertilizer price, increase the price also. So balancing becomes responsibility of the government. So they cannot take an arbitrary decision that fuel prices will increase. The moment diesel prices increase, you also need to calculate how much is impact on the cost of cultivation. Accordingly, price should go up or income support should go up. So government should look at whether I should increase price or I should increase income support or I should increase a subsidy or I need a policy to facilitate or a regulate. So I think the new framework of agricultural policy should come into that and it should become state responsibility. State responsibility that every farmer earns decent income, 3 to 4 lakh rupees is what our calculation shows. And how do they get? Provide opportunity, and that's where change will happen. So coming to the end actually. So what do we do? How do we go forward? I think that's what we need to look at. I think there are a lot of solutions which were tried out. Some work, some didn't work. Learn from that and then adapt to our situations. I think that's what one need to look for. So if we can compile all these things, look at what worked, what didn't work, it certainly helps. Two important changes I would, what I have seen which were worked. Say market, for example. Market prices are always an issue. So in Andhra Pradesh, what we tried is, we tried to look at the biggest temples. Tirumala temple, Balaji temple. If you look at their annual consumption, it's huge. So we had a discussion with the Tirumala temple, will you go organic and buy directly from the farmers? So last year on an experiment we bought 1500 tons of chana dal, it's a Bengal gram, and when we made the calculation, the price at which temple buys, same price they bought from the farmers, but farmers got, so with the farmer level we said you get 15% over the minimum support price or 10% over the local market price, whichever is higher. Still temple got at the same price. And seeing that this time temple decided they will buy everything from farmers, 12 commodities. And 12 commodities, today we are looking at nearly 10 districts. Nearly 20% of our farmers will get market only in Tirumala temple. So market doesn't mean only the retail market in the street side. Temples, schools, colleges, there could be many more. So we need to actually innovate on that. Let's not look at only depending on the government. What is government role is to facilitate what you want to do. Government is not the market. Government is not the market. Government is not the knowledge provider. Government is not market. Government is not an institution supporting you. Government is not a market. So what you need to do is, government is a facilitator to you. It should invest. Its role is to invest, to give you money. And then let us decide, let farmer decide how to go forward. So let's make government responsible for the well-being of the farmers. Let's not depend too much on the government to do everything. Then only we all can do our work. Today what is happening is, government decides what we all have to do. Right? That's what is happening. So that's a change, I think, is what we need to do. So from my side, what I can offer to all of you is, all of you can come, talk to the farmers. You don't need to listen to me. Go to the villages, talk to the farmers, pick up what is the best practices. Practices in terms of production, practices in terms of organizing farmers, or practices as a policy, what government is doing. Pick up best and then formulate your own policy, because what is good for you, you only can decide. And what is good for the farmer, farmer only can decide. Let's not decide for them. Till now the problem is that somebody sitting in Delhi decides what to grow, at what price to buy, where to sell. So let's move away from that, let farmer decide. And let's empower farmers to do it. I think that's what was the dream of Gandhian economy, Kumarappa. Several people thought about Gram Swaraj. And that can only happen if we think differently. So I think that's where we all should make a beginning. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share. Any questions? Should I take questions?
How the state government and union government is giving green signal to all your exercise, when the entire economy, especially agricultural economy or any economy, is controlled by the WTO and the corporates. That is the question. How they are giving green signal. Second question, when Kumar committee recommendations and the government,
Shantakumar.
And the union government is towing on the line of that recommendation, which says don't increase the price for the farmers. And how the state government is not being resisted, the farmers are giving to the farmers, and the union government is how it is not resisting.
Yeah. So two important things, very, very right and pertinent question. See, actually WTO what it says is, you should not do a price distortion in the market. So all other support which I talked about, direct income support and all, actually comes under green box subsidies. So you can actually give farmers any amount you want. No one objects. You cannot increase the price and distort the market. That's what actually WTO says. So green box subsidies, there is no limit at all. Every farmer, if you are giving 20,000 rupees, 40,000 rupees, 50,000 also, because every country is giving it. So that there is no actually limit for anyone. So green box subsidies are actually exempted. Green box not only includes income, it also includes environmental benefits. Say, if farmer is conserving water, you can actually pay them. If farmer is growing trees, you can actually pay them. So all that is allowed in the even WTO also. So it won't distort market. That's a first clarification. So the fight in the WTO was the price increase. If the price increase is not done, there is no debate at all. So you can reduce the price, but you pay otherwise. You pay to the farmer directly. So market price is only lower. So that's what is the WTO says. The Shantakumar committee about procurement. So Shantakumar committee said the same thing. They said don't buy from states which are actually distorting prices. So Chhattisgarh came the problem. So Chhattisgarh, last 2 years, center said I won't buy from Chhattisgarh. But because of the COVID, they were forced to buy because the requirement went up. So they have to buy. This year we need to see how they are going to handle. But what we decided at the state level, because I work with the Chhattisgarh government closely. So state decided, so if center is not going to buy, that 700 rupees, they don't call it as price support. They call it as a crop support. See, See, it is all about how do you write your account finally. See, it is all about how do you write your accounts. So they will say, I bought only at the MSP, give me MSP. The rest of it goes to the farmer as a support. So that is allowed. See, like I said, Chhattisgarh government under Nyay Yojana, they call it as Nyay, N-Y-A-Y, Nyay. You can Google it, you can get the information. 10,000 rupees per acre per farmer they already are paying. They'll increase something more there. They'll increase. So instead of actually giving at a price point, they can give at the input level. So there are several ways of actually dealing with these things. So there's don't look at only one solution is what my appeal is. See, we also need to understand there is a larger framework, national, international, and what is the best way we can deal with that or bypass that. Thank you.